So many Nigerians who are saying let's do electronic voting are blaming INEC for not trying to do electronic voting. But there is a legal provision that says electronic voting is prohibited. So now people are hoping that the National Assembly will remove that encumbrance, not necessarily for INEC to plunge in electronic voting in 2023 or before then, but at least they will now begin to identify the different electronic voting systems, to identify which are adaptable, to find out which they can begin piloting, and so on and so forth. Things that they could not do before because of that legal hindrance. And then people are saying, in any case, electronic transmission of result is easier to deploy. It's more cost-effective compared to use of electronic voting. You know, so why not begin with electronic transmission of results? You know, and there was a major movement for that. Unfortunately, the National Assembly, in the draft bill that they are now trying to do what they call reconciliation, on the one hand, in the same provision, they said that INEC is permitted to do electronic voting, but provided that it does not do electronic transmission of results. You know? So in fact, what they are saying is that they are not even allowing INEC to do electronic voting because they do not want electronic transmission of results. And why? Simple. Because from my personal experience in INEC, one of the major ways in which the integrity of the electoral process is undermined is in the manual transmission of results from the polling unit to the ward level, to the local government level, to the constituency collation centers. You can paste a result of the polling unit, you know, but somehow, either with connivance of crooked election officials or connivance with crooked security agents, or with connivance with returning officers, or in fact, by the harassment of returning officers, because we have started seeing that at least in 2019 in Imo, where a senator held a returning officer literally with a gun to his head, compelling him to do a return in his favor. Because the law says once a return is made, nobody can change it, it's only the tribunal. And they already know how to maneuver their ways through the tribunals. You know? So really you have these very, very serious challenges. So electronic transmission of results is not perfect, may not be done in 100% of all the polling units. In fact, all over the world, including the United States of America, it is not 100% transmitted because there are still areas where network is not good and so on. But if you can transmit results, for example, in 70, 75, 80, or 90% of the polling units, you have substantially eliminated a lot of the scope for electoral malpractices related to the transmission of results. You know? But our politicians, because that's the traditional way they know, that is how they traditionally control the electoral process, they are not even willing to hear this. So this is a very, very serious challenge. So therefore, we must improve the integrity of the selection process through political parties, ideally by mobilizing people to get into the parties. Hopefully, the bad tendency over time may be replaced by a good tendency, but it's a very, very long-term project, likely to be our democratic development, as well as the character and nature of the Nigerian state leaves much to be desired. For Nigeria to stabilize and progress as a modern democratic nation state in the 21st century, we have to work hard to change our ways. The current so-called two dominant parties, in particular the APC and the PDP, with their faulty recruitment and leadership selection processes, who have shared power and have tended to lead Nigeria, I'm sorry to say, astray in the past 21 years, are becoming incapable of directing Nigerian political and governance processes in the right direction. The dominant elite in these parties are self-centered, are preventing the few good ones amongst them to be impactful. They are also fractious and quarrelsome and lacking even in what I call enlightened self-interest. Because sometimes you sacrifice your personal interest in order for the system to stabilize, to legitimize. So we need to create a new special purpose vehicle or even new special purpose vehicles, but that can go into alliance and work together in order to free our country from the stranglehold placed on it by reckless, vigilance, and parochial politicians. For too long, patriotic, enlightened, capable, and competent citizens of our country have pursued the sit-don't-look disposition, considering electoral politics as basically for the crooked-minded. By so doing, they have allowed dishonest and unwholesome tendencies to become domineering. And obviously, as things are now, this attitude needs to change urgently. Otherwise, these reckless politicians will run our country aground. From what I have seen as a manager of elections for 5 years, and what I have read as a political scientist, and what I know about other electoral systems, if we do not begin to have substantive, remarkable improvements in 2 electoral cycles, unless God works his miracles, they will run this country aground. Those who want this country to be dismembered may achieve their objective, and we will all be the worse for it. So, the ways and the manners by which they and their selected candidates engage with the electoral process, as well as engage in governance once they get elected. So integrity is key in participation in the preparation and conduct of elections. And I think regrettably, this significant issue of participation with integrity, selection of candidates with integrity, and preparation of conduct of elections with integrity have been systematically undermined by our dominant elite while pretending to pilot transition to democracy in our country. The people as citizens are the principals. The government is the agent, and the elected representatives are to be their servants, who should act in accordance with the needs and the aspirations of the people. And therefore, the government, in which they represent the people, whether as lawmakers or as makers and implementers of public policies, actually have to be guided by the needs and the aspirations of the people. Personal conduct, personal character traits, and the personal attributes are not into consideration. And because, regrettably, those who select candidates through political parties do not pay attention to this, invariably, voters also, when they come to exercise their power to select, to vote, these provided candidates also do not factor this in their selection processes. And therefore, we look at the current Nigerian situation. Frankly, it's a very, very sorry situation. And we have a lot of work to do in order to reposition Nigeria back to the trajectory of liberal democratic rule on the basic principles and tenets if we want to, within a reasonable period of time, be considered as a mature democracy or a full democracy in the committee. No, Nigeria is not a failed state, but Nigeria is a failing state. So, saying it is a failing state means that you can still prevent it from failing, which means that citizens have obligation to participate in the democratic process and to ensure that people of integrity come to preside over the governance process in order to ensure that the state is rescued from itself and that it goes back to discharging its own obligations and responsibilities, and it goes back to satisfying the fundamental needs and aspirations of citizens. So unfortunately, when you look at all the major global indices which are being used to rank countries and to compare countries in terms of who is better, Nigeria ranked very, very lowly. You know, starting from the gross national product to the even the gross national product per capita, the GNP per capita. And then when you move to that, which is about economic growth, not about the distribution of wealth, but at least economic growth, you find that there are very, very serious challenges. The economy is faltering. In fact, the economy is also, if care is not taken, going aground. Look at the heavy debt burden. You have to take loans to pay even salaries, not to talk of to build infrastructure or to provide security. I have not told anybody that I have presidential ambition. These are speculations in the newspapers. It is true that I have registered as a member of a political party because I have decided no longer to do sit-down look, and I have decided to contribute in any way possible, you know, to helping develop a strong political party that can be impactful, whether at the local level or at the state level or at the national level, you know. So, and I'm devoting my life and energy to be able to do that, you know. So, but I have never told anybody I wanted. I mean, when we are trying to build a party, first things first. You have to build the party. You have to have the structures before. If people start today, you join a party, tomorrow you want to be a candidate. Actually, you are trying to destroy the basis of building the party, because everybody will have ambition. So there are times for everything, and I have no ambition. I know I'm a Muslim and I practice my religion and I have faith in God. I know that there is nothing that God cannot do, you know. So I leave what God can do to God. But I have no ambition. I've never told anybody I want to be president, you know, but I want to contribute to bring positive changes to our politics. And I can do it from my own little corner. Thank you very much.